from a faraway country. She had dreamed of being rich, and not merely the daughter of a modest merchant. "Papa, if you were here, you would surely know what to suggest." Of course, if Papa were still alive, there would be no dilemma regarding their welfare. Cassie heard noises behind her and fell silent. No sense in letting people believe her touched in the head. She bowed in prayer, pleading with God to see her need and answer her questions. Her mother's laundry service had provided well enough since Cassie's father's death, now nearly 10 years past. They weren't poverty-stricken, yet providing for their needs was a constant concern. Everything good came with effort, her mother would often say, but Cassie worried that such effort was aging her mother before her time. Not only that, but from the moment her father had died, Cassie had longed to ease her mother's burden, to take her turn caring for the family. Finding another job would allow Cassie to do just that. "Oh, my!" Cassie raised her head and opened her eyes to find an elderly woman leaning heavily against the back of the bench. Stylishly dressed in a dark rose walking-out suit, the woman looked oddly familiar. Cassie immediately got to her feet and offered to help her sit. "Are you all right?" she asked, gently. "Goodness, I believe I've walked too far today." She pulled a fan from her reticule and attempted to open it. Cassie took the fan in her hand as recognition dawned. "Here, allow me." She opened it and let the air work to revive the woman before adding, "Aren't you Mrs. Jameston? We attend Christ Church, and I'm certain we've met before." "Oh, yes, you're Cassandra Stover. I know your mother Dora quite well. She has often helped with various church affairs." Smiling, Cassie nodded. "That would be my mother. She loves to help others." Mrs. Jameston smoothed out her jacket and closed her eyes for a moment. "I feel much revived. You are a good nurse, my dear. Well, please sit and rest for a while longer. I'll walk home with you when you are ready, but you mustn't press yourself too hard." The older woman opened her eyes at this. "It seems I've been pressing too hard all of my 70 years. A habit that is difficult to break, for I come from stubborn stock." Cassie grinned. "My mother says the same of me. I have a tendency to be opinionated, outspoken, and stubborn." "Well, those traits can also be used for good," Mrs. Jameston replied. "I know that much firsthand, for they are also my own companions." She shifted and seemed to relax a bit more. "So tell me what you're doing here today. You look as though you were praying." "I was," Cassie answered. "I desperately need direction." "God is the best to seek that from. But pray tell, what would a young woman like you so desperately need at this juncture in her life?" "I'm hardly that young any more. I'm 24, soon to be 25. Since you know my mother, you know also that my father is deceased. We have worked to get by without him these last 10 years. Everyone does their part, and that is why I was praying. My sister Elida is now old enough to help with the laundry service, and with summer approaching she'll be out of school and able to help full-time. I want to figure yet another way to support our household, but to be frank, I'm not good at anything." Mrs. Jameston chuckled. "I seriously doubt that to be true." "Well, I tried my hand at serving tables at one of the local eating establishments, but I was rather clumsy. I think all the noise and people caused me to be nervous. Then I tried working at the textile mill, but—" She shuddered and tried to block the ugly image from her imagination once again. A little boy lost his hand. It was horrible. Oh, my dear child, I cannot even imagine how terrible that must have been for you. Mrs. Jameston patted Cassie's arm in sympathy. "I knew I couldn't work there," Cassie said, shaking her head. "Now I'm not sure what to do. You would think that God might have gifted me with more beneficial accomplishments, but perhaps that is my own fault."